Hello there everybody, Sam Strange here, welcome back to the Railway and welcome to another Heljan diesel review. So today, once again, I seem to say this every episode, but it's a good thing, believe me. Today I've got a real bargain to show you. It's a diesel that I picked up from Hatton's not too long ago, and it cost me only £72. So it is a bone from Heljan, otherwise known, of course, as a Class 58. But yes, they got the nickname Bones, and if you don't know why that is, stay tuned, because you will certainly see later on. So yeah, it's another Heljan loco, of course. I've got a good feeling about this. Everything seems to be working so far with this. As you can see, there's a window in the front of the box, which I've often complained about the lack of in the past. So that's very good. And I have heard sort of good things about this model, so I'm hoping it will be pretty decent. So the Class 58 from Heljan, obviously the only Class 58 that I've had contact with so far has been quite an old-fashioned Hornby Class 58, which was a decent model, but quite an old model, so it will be really interesting to see how this much more modern Heljan version compares. So if you want to pick one of these up, I have included a link in the description as always, but for the time being, let's get this out and find out exactly what this is like. Okay, £72, what a bargain that was. So yeah, quite a lot of people really in the comments asked me to look at slightly more modern stuff, and these Class 58s in real life were first built in the 1980s, I think it was, so not super modern, but definitely a lot more modern than a lot of the stuff I tend to look at. So I'm sort of halfway giving you what you asked for there, so I hope that's alright. Anyway, first of all, I'll just show you what is on the end of the box. So you can see it's a Class 58, obviously, it's item number 58201, it's 58012 in the rail freight, and it says Olivia's Trains, which is a little bit strange. Obviously it has got nothing to do with Olivia's Trains, and I'm pretty sure this isn't rail freight either. I thought it was mainline freight. So that's all a little bit strange. I didn't buy it from Olivia's Trains, obviously I bought it from Hatton's, so whether it's got the wrong box or the wrong sticker, I have no idea. Maybe that's yeah, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is rail freight grey. That's thrown me a little bit. Who knows? Either way, I suppose it would be in keeping with what I've experienced from Heljan in the past, wouldn't it, if it did have the wrong sticker? But then again, I'm no expert on these things, so it could well be that it's me at fault, and certainly not the box. Okay, right, let's get this out. Cool. So yeah, this packaging is a lot more like, well, the likes of Hornby and Bachmann really, than Heljan in the past. It's got the sort of outer cardboard sleeve with the sort of air cushioning, and then the blister pack on the inside, which is quite interesting. But as you can see, it's super well packaged with all the foam around the sides. So yeah, I mean that instills a lot of confidence, doesn't it? And it's heavy, even in this sleeve as it is now. It's super duper heavy, weighs an awful lot. Okay, so let's get this out then. We do at least have well, something. Let's open this up and find out exactly what it is. Yeah, this is bizarre. Look at this. Right, Class 58, item number 58201 to 58271, exclusively made for Olivia's Trains. How interesting, because obviously I bought this from Hatton's, so did Olivia not want these trains? I don't really know. Hang on. Let's see if the running number matches up. So this is 58012, and the number 58012, well yeah, well it's the right number, so it's certainly not just the wrong thing in the box. I don't know. Either way, so there's a little bit of, well, information really about the model, not the real thing. And then on the inside, oh, okay, so there's quite a lot of information there. You've got a parts list, it looks like, and then a little bit of instructional material there about fitting accessories and also fitting decoders and things, which is fair enough. And then on the back, yes, there's a little bit of history of the Class 58. So that seems to include all the essentials, doesn't it? I don't think any cause for complaint there. Yeah, very good. Anyway, well, we're not too bothered about the paperwork, are we? So shall we get to the loco itself? Although, you can see there's quite a bit in the sort of accessories front. So let's get this outer sleeve off and take a little look, shall we? See exactly what we get inside here. Okay, well, it's sellotaped down, so let's try and get that off. Alright then. Okay, so two bags it looks like. On the first bag you can see here we have some couplings, so obviously, well, presumably the model won't come with the couplings fitted. And then it looks like on sprues you've got sort of handrails, it looks like, or I don't know, they almost look like cab doors from steam locomotives. But yes, as I say, the instructions did show where the accessories went, so I'll have to double check that. And then you've got quite a bit of detail here. It looks like this is the bogie detail, is it? Bogie underframes. there must be alternative then. That's interesting, because the model does have them fitted. How very strange. I'll have to look into why on earth they've done that. Yes, unless there's a real life variation and you can choose which one to use. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, that's unusual. Very, very unusual. Unless they are just spares, but they did look different to the ones fitted. Although I've not had it out yet, so I'm not 100% sure. Right, let's see, shall we? Well, the packaging is very, very impressive. There's even plastic around the model itself, which is astonishing. Right, okay, let's get this out then. Carefully lifting it. Oh, right, interesting. So there's a piece of the model lying in the bottom of the box, which has snapped plastic pieces on it, which means it probably isn't going to stay on the bottom of the model. Let's have a look. Yeah, nope. So already it's badly damaged straight in the packaging, and as I say, the clips on there have broken, so I'll have to glue those on. So already this is living up to my perceived quality standards of the Heljan models. Very, very poor quality then. That's a shame, isn't it? That's probably why they were so cheap. At least it was cheap. So I will have to find a way to glue that back on if possible. Yeah, that's a shame, isn't it? But without the underframe then, for the time being, there is the Class 58. And yes, it is a relatively, well, I'm a bit put off now by the fact that there was a large piece broken off it straight away, but trying not to think too much about that, you can see that it certainly looks like a bone, doesn't it? Yeah, you've got the sort of wide ends here, and yeah, the level of detail looks to be relatively impressive. So here's a little bit of history on the Class 58 then. I will try to make some repairs, which is completely unacceptable, of course, but once I've done that and once we've heard the history, I will show you a little bit of this up close. All right, let's get to it. So the Class 58 was introduced in 1983, and it was designed to be as cheap yet as maintainable as possible. Hey, a little bit like the model, although perhaps not so maintainable. Either way, they were designed for heavy freight, and the class was similar to the earlier Class 56, but with a much lower maintenance cost apparently, so a little bit more economical. 50 were produced during the mid-1980s, and though they were intended to match the performance of the Class 56, they supposedly proved to be quite inferior in practice. The Class 58's time in service on British Railways was relatively short-lived though, with the first few withdrawals taking place in the late 1990s, around only 15 years after the class was first introduced. In 2002, after only 20 years in service, the rest of the class were withdrawn and several were sent abroad though, and I think some can still be running today, which is quite cool. This version, of course, is in the mainline triple grey, Mainline Freight being quite a short-lived, once again, British company founded in 1994 and amalgamated into the EMS in 1996. Okay, so there it is then, the Class 58 up close and personal for you, and yeah, I actually think the finish on this is absolutely fantastic. Just look at the paintwork there. It's absolutely done to a massively high standard. It's just such a shame that it's let down by the frankly awful build quality, which appears to be just so typical of Heljan. Now, once again, and I seem to have said this, in fact, in the last Heljan video, but it seems to be the fact that the detail, such as the underframe, for example, and in fact the entire body, is just clipped in place. There are no screws. Once again, I can't find any screws on the outside of the body. Now, as I say, I think I said this last time, but I just want to reiterate it this time. If a company wants to use just clips and not screws to hold the models together and save a little bit of money, then that is absolutely fine by me. However, if things are going to break off and drop off and be separate from the model in the box, then it is a bad idea and it should not be done. And the fact that a YouTuber who sits in his loft and plays with his trains on the carpet is having to point this out is frankly ludicrous and ridiculous. And while I'm having a little bit of a rant, I will just address another thing, because sometimes I get a couple of comments saying, "I think you just got unlucky with this model, I'm sure the rest are absolutely fine," or words to that effect, right? Now, yes, I'm sure that might be a factor. However, if it was just luck and I got a few bad models, then you would expect it to be a very, very small number of cases, right? Let's say, to be very, very generous, statistically speaking, less than 50% of the models from a manufacturer would need to have problems for you to attribute it to bad luck. Now, I don't look at an awful lot of Heljan locos, it's only been 4 or 5 in the past year, but every single one has had a quality problem over the past year. Now, those quality problems range from the pretty minor and trivial to the pretty serious, such as bodies dropping off and horrible, horrible build quality. So it cannot be luck, in my opinion. I've seen enough Heljan models now to know that in my opinion at the very least, the build quality leaves a lot to be desired. I've had bodies dropping off, I've had horrible glue marks, I've had parts missing, I've had terrible performance, I've literally had it all, and frankly I've also had enough. So yeah, Heljan, I don't know what the problem is, but it doesn't seem to be getting any better, because this model is from quite a few years ago, and the Heljan Tango was brand new. So yeah, sort it out. I'm really getting tired of it, and it's disappointing, because, you know, these things are not cheap. And to be perfectly honest, I bought a 10 quid plastic Chinese train set from Amazon that has arrived in better condition than most of Heljan's stuff. So I don't know what it is, but it is disappointing, and it's disheartening. It is disheartening, especially when these models cost as much as they do. Either way, as I say, the actual appearance of this loco, once you've effected the repairs, obviously as you can see I have done with some hot glue, is pretty decent. It's very, very good indeed. So let's take a look, shall we, at some of the painted details now that I've had the rant over. Feels better though, I must say. Okay, so you've got the mainline freight logo on the side there, which as you look, we can look as close as this, and it's perfectly done. Very, very nicely done indeed. The grills on the side are nicely done as well. They're not etched or anything like that. I think they are just a part of the moulding, but they've been designed very, very cleverly so they look extremely realistic. That's very good to see. The same thing goes on the roof really, as you can see, mostly just moulded detail as you'd probably expect. But say the fan grills here, as you can see, very nicely done. And in fact, those are real grills that show the fans behind. At the moment, I've not had this running yet, so I don't know whether those fans are going to turn. For the price I paid, I would probably doubt it, but we'll take a look anyway and find out. The quality of the model isn't absolutely terrible in all areas, however, definitely don't make that mistake. If we look at the doors here, you can see that we've got these handrails either side of the doors which protrude a very, very long way from the body, but as you can see, I can push them here and I can push the model along with them. So how they managed to get those so rigid, I have no idea, but yeah, they really do seem to be good quality handrails. Whether it's a good thing that they're so rigid, I don't know, because obviously the rubberized ones tend to be less brittle and they tend to flex rather than break, but those are very, very strong indeed. In fact, they seem so reinforced, I would guess that they're probably made of painted metal or something. But either way, yes, very good. Let's take a look at each end of the model then. Let's take this end to take a look. So it's got the yellow ends, as you can see, which have been painted up very nicely. And there are little warning signs printed onto there, very, very finely printed. As I say, Heljan seem to really get it right, don't they, with the actual decoration of the models. I really can't fault that. Quite a bit of separately fitted work on the end, especially on the buffer beam there. Again, this is something that irritates me with Heljan. I might as well get it out of my system right now. Look at all the detail hanging down there. There's no way you're going to be able to put a NEM coupling into there without disturbing any of that. So I'm not looking forward to that at all. But thumbs up for the detail, thumbs down for the practicality there. It's a bit of a pain. The buffers are made of plastic, which is a little bit cheap and nasty looking, isn't it? I prefer them to be made of metal. I don't think there's any reason really for them to be made of plastic, but they are sprung, which is at least one good thing, so that's pretty good. The underframe, well, the underframe that was present on the model when I got it out of the box is relatively good, and don't forget we do have spares for these. In fact, I think there were 4 spares, yeah, so you could replace the whole lot. Whether that's just because they expect them to break or something, or whether it's a different variation that you can fit, I'm not 100% sure, but it's nice to have those anyway, and they might come in handy for spares and things, which I think is quite good. Oh, and I forgot to show you the interior of the cab. Nothing painted inside there, as you can see. However, there is a little bit of interior detail there, which is good. And we also appear to have, I think they are separately fitted, let's just double check, these windscreen wipers. Yes, they are separately fitted, so that's pretty nice. That's a good little touch of detail. So there we go, that is just a quick overview of the level of detail on the model. It is pretty impressive, I would say, especially given that this is a few years old now. But for now, let's talk a little bit about performance. Let's get it down onto the track for its first run, and yeah, let's see how it takes the rails, shall we? Okay, so there she is then down onto the track, ready to, well, have her first ever performance test. And as you can see, I have fitted one of the NEM couplings to the back of the model there. Bit messily though, because as you can see, the sort of screw link coupling drops down onto it, and there are other little hoses and things that are in the way of it. So I reckon this is going to derail, or at least derail the rolling stock when we couple up to it. So yeah, even that is frustrating, isn't it? Why have Heljan fitted all of this stuff, knowing that most people are going to use NEM couplings? It's irritating, isn't it? In fact, I don't know that most people are going to use NEM couplings, so let me know. On your railway, what is the main mode of coupling that you use? Do you use the screw link coupling, the actual real coupling that real engines use, or do you fit the sort of Hornby coupling, Hornby style coupling rather, like this one? Do let me know, and hopefully we will help Heljan out by doing the market research that they should have done. Anyway, let's, and I'm sorry about the slightly obnoxious tone of my review today. It's just, yeah, it's a bit frustrating, isn't it? But let's try and be positive about the performance and the mechanism. Okay, so I've not had this running yet, so I can't say an awful lot about the mechanism. All I can say is that it's not all-wheel drive, sadly. The middle axle of each bogie is not driven, which was the same on the last Heljan Loco, and it is only the outer wheels that pick up as well. So you've got, what's that, 8 wheels picking up and 8 wheels driving. Well, that's not too bad at all, is it? I think that's reasonably good. Okay, well, I don't really know whether it has lights or anything like that. As I say, I've not had the body off, so let's give it a little bit of juice and find out exactly how this thing runs. Okay, a little bit of power then. Let's see what happens. It's buzzing. I'm turning it up. Okay, bit of a jolty start, but it did seem to move. Let's try it backwards. And bear in mind, this has not been running yet, so it probably will improve as time goes on. And there are LEDs I can see. In fact, if I just change the camera angle for you, you can see the LEDs. Yes, red when it goes into reverse, and very, very cool white when it goes forwards. I personally don't know whether that colour temperature is accurate or not, because, as I say, I'm mostly into Steam. But if you do know, let me know down in the comments. But yeah, actually, even now, it's not been run in, but even now that it's had a little bit of forwards and backwards running, it does seem to be getting a lot smoother. And also, the speed seems to be nice and controlled as well. It doesn't fly too fast when you set it to about medium speed, which is good. Let's just try a crawl then, just for the record. Let's see how she can do, just so that we've got it, and then we'll let her run in and see if it's any better later on. I assume it's got a very heavy 5-pole motor inside here, and there are flywheels attached to it as well, because I saw those through the holes in the bodywork when the bits of detail dropped off. I am slowly turning it up. Slowly. See if we can get it to kick in. Oh, started to go then. There we go. So it's obviously not got much torque, because that's the speed at which it kicked in. Oh well, that's not too bad. Right, well, let's hope it doesn't derail on the curves then, fingers crossed, with that coupling in. Alright, let's see how it goes. Well, so far so good. And it sounds pretty healthy as well, doesn't it? So at last it's looking the part, it's looking pretty decent, and I think we've got a Wall of Fame photo down there. It's been hot recently. Yeah, it looks astonishingly good actually, doesn't it? And I love the livery. Reminds me of the first Class 58 I ever had. The Hornby one that blew up. So I should be glad at least this one's not blown up. That is a big plus, isn't it? Okay, so I'm going to let this have a really good run in, 30 minutes in each direction, or perhaps 25 minutes, something like that anyway. And we'll come back, we'll try her with a load, and we'll also see if she can crawl any better. Alright, I'll be right back then, folks. Alright folks, I am back and she is done running in. Now I had to do the second half of the running in on the rolling road because she was absolutely fine forwards, ran absolutely fine, but backwards she was unable to complete a single lap without derailing, obviously due to the, frankly, pretty stupid decision to fit all of the buffer beam detail, given the fact that they foul up the thing while it runs. Yes, as you can see there, yes, it just keeps derailing, and I know some people are going to blame my track, saying that it's on the carpet and it shouldn't be and all of that stuff. But to me, that is obviously cobblers, because when you've got nearly 400 locos like I have, and none of them derail except this one, you'd have to be, well, you'd have to be pretty devoid of brain cells to blame the track. But no, I'm sure somebody still will, and that's fine. Either way, on the track just behind the loco, I've set up some mega boxes. There are, what, 7 of those, I think, which is not too bad. I have measured the pulling power. I think it measured in at 0.86 newtons, which is, I think, the weakest of the diesels I've measured. But so far, I've only measured 3 other diesels, and that was the V-Trains Class 37, the Heljan Class 52, and the Bachmann 66, all of which are considerably larger than this one. So actually, the pulling power seems to be relatively good. Anyway, before we couple up to the mega boxes, let's just give it a little bit of a crawl and see if it's any better now, having had a run in. Well, I couldn't really tell then. Let's try one more. Yeah, unfortunately, it's not really able to do a crawl. There just isn't torque there, which is a bit of a shame, but it's not a huge deal. As you saw, it did run very nice and smoothly at a sort of moderate speed. So, yeah, can't really fault the performance too much. Obviously, we've got better. We've seen better, but yeah, it's all right. It's not so bad. Right, let's couple up to the mega boxes then, see if she can haul those. I'm expecting she ought to. Nice and steadily does it. There we go. And I must say the coupling seems to be a bit more secure with this one. It doesn't just flop out every time you try to pull a moderate load like the 52 did, so that's a thumbs up. Okay, bit of power then, let's see how this goes. Hey, she almost did a crawl there, that was quite good. Oh, no, stopped again. Well, she hasn't stopped, she's just run out of torque. I'm just turning up a touch more. There we go, well that's reasonably smooth at that speed. Right, well, we'll leave her to it and we'll see how she gets on with Gordon's Hill. And then on the middle line I have yet another Class 58. This is a much older model though. Are you ready for this one? Yeah, we've got a problem folks. Let's stop that. Yeah, unfortunately the mega boxes have derailed, so we'll deal with that in just a second. But yeah, this is the old Hornby Class 58. I might as well finish talking about this and then we'll go and have a look at the disaster that's unfolded over there. So yeah, as I say, much older model. It's a Hornby version, and I must say that the Heljan version, despite its few faults, which are quite minor faults, I think, on the grand scheme of things, it is far superior to this model. This one's quite old-fashioned and a little bit on the underpowered side. Anyway, let me get it out of the way and then we'll go and recreate that situation with the Heljan 58. And watch all the mega boxes derail, shall we? Oh, good. Right, let's see if this happens again then, shall we? Oh yes, already it has. So as you can see, yeah, the buffer beam detail obstructs the coupling, and that happens without fail. So out of the box, it cannot haul rolling stock, although it's having a good stab at it, isn't it? Right. Fair enough. Well, I better defrock that buffer beam before I have an accident. Better go and stop it, hadn't I? Right, take 3. Let's see. Oh, hooray! So it looks like it's worked. I've taken off a lot of the detail from the buffer beam, and it seems to have fixed the problem, so thank goodness for that, that's what I say. Much better. Okay, and then on the inside line I've got the Heljan Class 52, another lovely looking loco. Hopefully she'll do us a few laps before the coupling flies out the socket or something else that I've not thought about. But there we go, hopefully it will work alright for us, and enjoy the running session and see which other locos you can spot. So apart from the very obvious engineering and design faults which relate to the way the model's actually assembled, once you get it up and running with all the parts fitted, it's a decent looking model, isn't it? And for the money, you really can't complain too much. And I must say I like it. Now that I've made the modifications, it's a decent runner, very, very good runner in fact. Good and quiet, good and smooth, reasonably powerful. Yeah, it's decent, it's a good model. Bit fast though. So let me know in the comments, what do you reckon? Is it a loco for you, or would you avoid it? To be honest, either way I can understand it. Yeah, I can see why you'd want to avoid it, and I can see why you'd want to pick one up, because they're not terrible, as I say. Alright, so here are some of my ratings then for the Heljan Class 58. Now the level of detail, to be honest with you, for the age of the model, which is a couple of years old now I think, is pretty impressive. I was very impressed with it, especially the decorated detail. I thought that was pretty good. So yeah, I've given that a 4-star overall, very, very good. Performance, similarly, yes, it was pretty good. It's very, very good and smooth, and it runs at a nice realistic speed, I must say that. However, it's not massively powerful. There doesn't seem to be a great deal of torque there. And also, obviously, it wasn't that great of a crawler either. So I've given it a 4-star, perhaps a tiny bit generous there. But yeah, I thought the performance was very good. Mechanism, I've given it a 4 out of 5. Generally, the mechanism is very good. Plenty of wheels pick up. Sadly, not all of them, which I suppose is a bit of a shame. And once again, there are 4 driven axles, 8 driven wheels. It's not quite as good as it ought to have been, but there is a decent motor inside there with flywheels and everything. No bearings on the wheel set, but it is just a plastic chassis that the wheels sit into, so that's not a huge issue. Overall then, yeah, I think that's worthy of a 4-star. The quality wasn't all that terrible, actually. In fact, I would have said it was pretty good if the main underframe wasn't sitting in the box broken off. Yeah, there's a lot of plastic, there's an awful lot of clips and not screws, which is a bit of a shame, but overall the quality's not great but not terrible, so I've given it 3-star. Value for money then, now I bought this for £72, which I thought was very, very good. The RRP, amazingly, was £89, which was quite impressive. I'm pretty amazed by that. However, that was quite a few years ago now. I don't expect that the RRP would be that anymore. However, for the relatively impressive price I paid, I'm going to give it 4 star. Definitely not too bad. Overall then, that is 7.16 out of 10. Not a bad score at all. That places it 19th, just below the Class 52 by Heljan. Imagine that as a coincidence. Shows the accuracy of my ratings. At least my opinions are consistent, I suppose. And then the Great Western Freight Pack, yes, it's just above that. Okay, not bad at all. Good old Western Bulwark. Love that model. Very lovely. It is a far better performer, I must say, than the Hornby version. The Hornby versions, for some reason, are quite prone to motor failure. I don't know whether they're putting their motor under too much stress, perhaps due to the mechanism, I don't know. But I've heard a lot of stories of the Hornby ones burning out, and in fact I've got a story of my own to add to them, because my first 58 went up in smoke and flames, as I'm sure I've told before. So I don't think there's any chance of that happening with the Heljan at least. So there we go then, folks. That is about the end of the review today. Definitely what I would call a mixed review. There's a lot of good, but also definitely a lot of bad about today's Loco. So form your own conclusions, obviously. I would always recommend doing that. And let me know down in the comments what your conclusions are. And if they're the same as mine, then you get extra points. But no. Form your own conclusions. That's always important. And yes, let me know if you disagree, let me know if you agree. There we go, that's a fair way to put it. Alright then folks, well, thanks for your company, have a great week, and I will see you very soon. Alright, cheers everybody, take care.